Hey, everybody, welcome to the Enhancing Your World show. I'm your co host, Chris Alba. Unfortunately, Larkin will be unable to join us today. So, we are going to continue on. And today's show is titled The Will is the Way. And, you know, there's so many experts and there's so much content out there about other people that the question that the show is to kind of ferment and unfold a little bit is what are you willing to be and what are you willing to do to overcome the challenges of your past as an individual within our collective humanity by being present today in this moment so we can create a forward step to a step up to a higher future, right? And self awareness is wonderful. It gives us a nice way of recognizing patterns and stories and narratives and things like that. But it can also be an invisible cage, or as I like to refer to it, the invisible fence of our comfort zone. And what I mean by that is when we attach to a certain identity, we have things show up in our lives that we weren't prepared for. Who we truly are will show up. And in the example that I'm going to give, I'm going to talk about our holistic center here. And the participation hasn't been what was anticipated. It wasn't what was expected. It hasn't been what was promised prior to making the commitments to taking the step forward to the healing center, but I knew it was the right thing to do. So even though personally I've had to go through some difficulties and some challenges and some setbacks and frustrations and things like that, that's been for me to grow, to continue to hold the space. Now, the last couple of days have been challenging because our float tank broke, our washer broke, rent had to be paid, all those different things. And it was very overwhelming. But I got to spend 2 days with my father where we were fixing these things, where we were spending time together. And we had a cup of coffee this morning together. And I was sharing with him how much I appreciated the time and the energy and the willingness to go through the adversities and go put things on the side or whatever so we could take care of what needed to be taken care of so our clients here could still use the facilities. It would have been very easy for us to go, oh, that's it, let's just call it, I'm going to just call it and move forward and go do something else. And I'm not going to deal with the challenges of having to be here till 11, 12 o'clock at night working on electronics and getting a float tank operational, because the parts won't be in for a few weeks. So I can't, we could go without the tank for a few weeks, or we could commit to ourselves to a willingness to overcome those challenges and or problems or opportunities, however we choose to label them. And that's the thing, like when we can identify our own behaviors and patterns, then we can navigate ourselves out of them. When we're focused all of our attention on the people outside of us, we're giving our power away because we cannot actually do anything. We can't change who somebody's going to perform or how they're going to show up, or those types of things. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is how do we respond, even though they are choosing to be the way that they're choosing to be. If they choose to betray you, or they choose to abandon you, or they choose to call you names or smear your character or any of that kind of stuff, that's them. Now, within that, there's probably some awarenesses where we as individuals can learn from a different perspective of how we're showing up and how it's affecting other people. And this is where, in the past I used to say, oh, there's no right or wrong, there's not good, no good or no bad, because what I'm talking about is unity, not the label, not the feeling, but what I'm talking about is the willingness to identify it, then go beyond it, to step up or to step down. And what I mean to step up is when you're seeing yourself in a pattern of lack, a limitation, of poverty, those types of things, whether it's your thought patterns or the way you're feeling or the way you're showing up in the world or your money or however you want to look at it. When you notice those opportunities to grow, you apply energy to them and then you get different results. Now, as far as pride and ego and um, all knowing and all those types of things, our character, our persona, that's where we need to take a step down and say, okay, how can I see this person as a reflection of me? Not because I necessarily like or agree with what this person is doing, but they're challenging me in a way because I have some unresolved emotions and feelings about this, right? And so, how can I come into peace? How can I come into harmony? How can I come into understanding? How can I come into an acceptance of this discomfort? Because once I'm willing and able to accept the discomfort, it's not as uncomfortable anymore. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym the first day, it's super hard, especially if you haven't worked out for a while or don't have a movement a movement practice, or you work an office job and you gain a few pounds or something like that. So you go to the gym for the first couple of weeks, it's going to be really hard, not only physically, but it's also mentally and emotionally, because you're using your attention, you're using your body, you're using your energy in different ways. So at first, it's going to be a little challenging. Now, the thing that comes with that is when we make choice, there's karma behind it, right? So as long as we're doing this because it's the right thing to do, because it feels good, because I want to be in better health than I was previously, before I picked up this habit or before I stopped working out or whatever the narrative is, right? That's the challenge. That's the uniqueness, everything in our natural world comes from the same source. However, it expresses itself in reality uniquely. It's different. Each tree's different, each flower's different, each bird's different, each snowflake's different. But generally speaking, we all come from a family, from a different way of categorizing that we as humans created. I've never seen a bird, disassociate with another bird because it was of a different color. They, if they're, if they're, they might be competing in other ways. They might protect their nest. The other day I saw some crows chasing a hawk, and then I saw, all kinds of different stuff, right? And that's the beauty of life, is it's always unfolding. It's always different. Each breath might feel similar, but it's an extension of what was previous before, right? And so the will, I don't even want to call the power of the will, because again, it's choosing, having faith, commitment, those types of things that will lead us here. 20 years ago, when I set out to do where I'm at today, a lot of things have come between then and now. My mind, of course, was like, oh, it's going to be super simple. It's going to be easy. It's going to be so much fun. It's, we're going to make all this difference in the world and with people and that kind of stuff. And absolutely, I have. Sometimes more positive than negative, if you would say. Why? Because of the way that they hold the vibration of whatever story, narrative, or how we affected one another. someone's not willing to hold themselves accountable for what they promised and what they said and how they behaved and all that kind of stuff, there's no amount of awareness that you can share with them that's going to change their willingness to go, you're right, I'm not holding myself accountable, so let me start doing that. Most of the time when we illuminate that somebody isn't being accountable for their actions or their words or whatever, the first thing they want to do is protect and defend, and then they'll attack you, just like any wounded animal will, because they're wounded. And I am no different. I've been there, I've done it. And that's the thing that I understood. My willingness to understand other people from where they came from, to walk in their shoes, has given me an ability to see beyond myself and also include myself. Because I don't like when people lie to me, so I do my best not to lie to other people. I don't like when people make plans and then don't follow through. So I try not to do that. Not always perfect at it. Sometimes things come up. Sometimes we don't feel good. Sometimes we're tired. Sometimes, whatever. Things happen. We had an enhancer wanting to join our membership the other day. In the moment I was working on our float tank, I didn't have time to open up my laptop and help them walk through the process of signing up and doing all the things, because I've done that 2 times for them and they're still struggling. I'm happy to help, but in that moment I couldn't help because I was busy doing something else. And now that I don't have to take care of the things that I had to do, now I can go back and say, okay, now I have time to sit with you. Let's go through this, because we have the time and space to do that. That's will. One of the things in business and sales that helped me get through the no's to get to the yeses was a motto or a mantra, or something, affirmation, however you want to. That they do have various different meanings, but because I'm trying to speak from a universal standpoint, I generalize. So I apologize if that offends you. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, when I was being met with adversity, I would remind myself, some will, some won't. So what? It's only a matter of time. And that doesn't mean forcing somebody to choose you or choose your side or choose to walk with you or choose your business or, any of that stuff. There's no force when it comes to will. You're either willing to participate or you're not. I choose to walk with you or I don't. And I choose to surround myself with certain types of people. Those are my preferences. But the more diverse my network, the stronger it is. As I'm talking to a guy that's doing, is hopefully going to take over our website and take that to the next level, because I've taken it as far as I can with the limited knowledge and ability, skill sets that I have. I've done the best that I could to get us to where we're at. And now it's time for me to let go of that and help and have someone else that has a greater sense of knowledge and skill set to take it to the next level. And that's the power of our community. Yesterday working with my dad, and even as I was speaking with my client today, and that was why I was a little late, so I apologize for that. It was so awesome, because I can do things that he can't, and he has knowledge that I don't. So between the two of us, there isn't much that we can't accomplish together. Now, that's been very hard to get outside of his shadow someone who's very intellectual and, has very, strong opinions and perimeters on how we humans should be and how life should be and all that kind of stuff. But as we were talking this morning, and I was telling him how much I appreciated his help and his energy and all the things and spending time with him and the things that he's not good at, right? Talking about emotions and things. He brought up that he was carrying so much anxiety because of all the things that he feels like he has to do, like cut the grass, that he wasn't truly able to enjoy it. And I said, well, that's a greater awareness of where you were yesterday. But from today's standpoint, can you appreciate the fact that we did this thing together? That we're overcoming these challenges together? That we're walking together in ways that we had always talked about as growing, as I was growing up and as he was growing up, right? Because the one thing that I've realized most about my parents is they were growing up as I was growing up. They were doing the best they could with what they had. Now, the difference between today and then is there's more focus on trauma. There's more focus on epigenetics. There's more focus on various different things. So and technology has advanced. So we have access to information and access to resources that they didn't have at my age. And what a beautiful evolution it's been for us. But instead of being grateful and appreciative of how we're evolving our humanity, most everybody just wants to talk about the pain and how people are and the limitations of people, or how this is not right or that's not right, or these people aren't being taken care of, or we're exploiting this, that, or the other. And the reality that I've seen from a lot of the people that bring up these awarenesses, the reason they have a problem with it is because they're doing it in their own lives, whether they're conscious of it or not. And the more I've learned that the only thing that I can control is how I observe thoughts, feelings, and my behaviors. And when I unconsciously react instead of consciously respond, that's the work. And I'm very disciplined in this approach and have been for many decades. And so what I've witnessed within my relationships with other people, if I get in my mind, I might react. But if they remind me to get back to my body, then I can come back into conscious control again. That's why when somebody's having a panic attack or anxiety or fear or anything else like that, I remind them to put their hand on their heart and take a couple conscious breaths. Because when we can slow down our energy, we won't be overwhelmed by it. It's like going to the gym. But it's invisible, so it's hard to measure. And since we're reacting and responding to different people at different times and different places and different conscious levels and consciousness levels, or however you want to make things really complicated, what I've learned is I'm willing to grow through anything with anyone because I know what it's like to be alone. I became a life enhancer because I wanted to help people overcome the challenges in their life. And that does mean if you need help with your lawn and landscaping and you're just overwhelmed and just need someone to give you a hand, or you're feeling depressed and your house is falling to crap and you need help, cleaning it up, or whatever those things are. That's what community is all about. That's what the tribe's all about. It's not about walking around calling ourselves healers or enhancers or this, that, or the other. It's how are we holding ourselves accountable and responding to this human life that we have, to this human experience. And to me, that's the most important, because we can all talk about all this lovely stuff, and for those of us that like mind candy, we can read, or we can listen to podcasts or videos or trainings or lectures, or we can go get certifications through people, which is kind of funny to me. I had someone, when they used to get upset with me, they would go through the list of all their practices, and how it must be me because they did all the work, and I was like, would you like a certificate for that? And of course it made them mad, but then they also understood exactly, because I laughed when I said it, what I was meaning for it. They were looking for validation. They were looking for um, an approval or those types of things. And I've done the same thing. I used to meditate 5 hours a day and, do all these various different things, right? And then I used to walk around like I was, I was a better version of myself, but I wasn't any better than anyone else. But when people get challenged, or they got sick, or they got overwhelmed, or whatever, then I would try to offer them a solution based on my own practices and what I was able to overcome and what I was able to do. I mean, because I've been on all the prescriptions for mood stabilizers and all that stuff as a kid, and because my parents weren't able to deal with me in the ways that, because I wasn't easy, right? And so they were trying to make me easier to deal with because I wasn't a conformist. And I remember trying to feel angry, and I would yell, and I wasn't feeling anything, and I would be like, I just wish I could feel again, even if it's pain. Just let me feel. This numb feeling is horrible. And I felt that numbness through heartbreak and betrayal and abandonment and life redirections and being robbed and the house fires and the floods and all the wonderful things that I've gone through, because it's a narrative that I get to tell now. They were really hard to get through. They were really hard to grow through. It was really hard to pick myself back up again and smile and say, I'm not done yet. Don't count me out. But I did it. And I don't need a participation badge. I don't need a frickin' trophy or ribbon or anything to make me feel special, because I've seen so many other people on this planet do the same thing. And the thing that for me, that's been a challenging way to communicate is, I know when I was in innocence and arrogance, it was very easy for me to project a hope and a new reality and all those things in a way that was charismatic or empowering or inspirational, or however you want to label it, to where it was really easy for people to to follow the path. What I learned from that experience is, unless they had conditioned themselves like I had through my own version of my experiences, they weren't ready for that yet. It's like a friend told me the other day, as a reminder, you know, you've done a lot of work, so sometimes you take it for granted what it's like to still go through the challenges. And I'm like, well, I'm challenged every day, but I'm able to work with it. I'm able to, laugh at it. I'm able to use it as a cup of coffee and remind myself of why I'm here. And sometimes it's easier to to get into comfort and to get into leisure and to get into relaxation and to just say, okay, well, let's see if this is going to work itself out. And guess what? It always does. Probably not the way that we wanted it to, though. My friend's going through a really challenging time through court right now, and the conversations that we've had together about it is, I wouldn't have done it the way that you did it, but I'm proud of you for doing it the way you felt called to do it. And not only that, that you spoke up and you advocated for yourself and you showed up and you did all the things that you had to do so you could at least do what you could to get the justice that you were hoping for. And I don't know the outcomes, or will we know the outcomes for a little bit, because that's the way the justice system works. But either way, she's doing what she needs to do to be able to look at herself in the mirror. And that's all I've ever tried to do. And when I've let myself down, that was the hardest. And because the only time I've ever let myself down is when I let someone else down that I really cared about. Something that I really cared about. And so, all this has been a really good teacher. It's not the textbooks, I haven't published books for a reason. It's not that I haven't written books or don't have them ready to publish. It's just the timing's not right yet. Because I'm still in a phase where I'm not willing to fake it until I make it. And I've already made it. I'm here. So are you. So we're not faking it. But I want to make sure that my words resonate with truth, with compassion, with honesty, with transparency, vulnerability. And sometimes that's hard to write in a book because it's very easy to share a narrative that elevates us while unconsciously put someone down below us because they're not able to be us or walk like us or talk like us or look like us or practice like us or however. That's the thing now. If we have the willingness to see that, then we're able to help each other out more. The greatest thing that I learned about people that have been self-made, or those that have created a life that they wanted for themselves, is they are generally willing to help others up, to lift them up. Hey, Aaron, nice to see you, brother. And it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. See, the system wants to give handouts because that keeps us compliant to the standard. The friends of mine that are on assistance have enough to survive, maybe some kind of an existence. They have food, they have shelter, those kind of things. But it is not created to lift people up from that place to allow them to develop the skill sets, and gain the knowledge and the practice to become consistent enough to lift them out of that situation. So they will forever be there. And I had a friend of mine that was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and they put him on disability, and he created a coloring book. This is just an example. And it cost him $13. I was helping him with the business, so I know the numbers. Cost $13 to make a coloring book. Sold him for $25. So he made $12. And because he was on disability, what the office told him is he had to record the full $25, not the $13 that he didn't make, but the $25 that he sold it for. That's what he was supposed to report. And so for every book that he sold, he lost X amount of dollars in benefits. Well, his medications that he can't live without right now are thousands of dollars a month. He's got an apartment that's taken care of. He gets help with food because he's not in a state where he can take care of himself on a day-to-day basis like what most people would consider a standard way of living. No judgments. Love the man. I love hanging out with him. Super creative, awesome dude. Amazing human being. Super loving. Anyway, I digress. This is about facts and numbers. For him to lift himself out of the situation to where he could take care of himself, he would have to literally make $8,000 a month just to cover the expenses that he has. That's a huge gap to jump. And it wasn't that he wasn't willing to go out and create a coloring book and to do the things that could help people overcome the challenges that they had in their life. But at what cost? And that's where we have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to give? And what are we willing to receive as an exchange? Because there's always Aini in the South is considered sacred reciprocity. You know, one day I need help, you help me. Next time you need help, if I can help you, I will. That's how we all lift each other up. It's a willingness of compromise and compassion and community. You know, I have many people say, you talk a lot about community, but you spend a lot of time alone. Why is that? It's like, yes, because what I'm looking for is participation. I don't care about how they dress. I don't care how they look. I don't, like that to me is irrelevant. What I care about is how we are participating in this thing we call life together. That's why I have friends that live on the streets. I have friends that live in, those mega houses. Have private airplanes and all that stuff. So I can tell you, considering that I'm a bridge between both of those economic polarities, they're both human. They both have the same opportunities. They have the same abilities. They have the same hearts. They have the same wants and desires. And for those that are walking around, and I've been one to say this too, not that I didn't have a desire, but I was just letting life unfold for me and surprise me because the universe knows better than me, the ego. So let's go through whatever I need to go through so I can grow to the person and live the life that I'm truly designed to be. That is beyond my mindset. That takes me showing up when I don't feel like it, helping someone that's hurt me or lied to me or betrayed me or not shown up or whatever, because that takes forgiveness. Because why? I've done that stuff too. Right, Aaron? It takes all of us. I mean, it's funny. People talk about, oh, my community. No, we're all community. What you're looking for is an ego boost. What you're looking for is validation. What you're looking for is to be put up on a pedestal so you can feel special. If you don't do that yourself, you will always be subservient. You will always be codependent on other people. and other things and other opportunities and whatever. It is a spiritual journey, but I'm getting so torn, Aaron, with the word spiritual because it's been so commodity. There's so much commodity. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I just had my appointment show up, so I'm going to have to cut this podcast short. But I really appreciate your guys' day. Thanks for tuning in. Again, check out all the broadcasts and rebroadcasts and all that on enhancingyourworld.com. If you are struggling with your willpower, with your ability to overcome challenges in your life, you have fears, insecurities, those types of things, and you're ready to put those things in your past, go to enhancingyourworld.com and sign up for a discovery session. They are at no financial cost. It is only going to cost your time and attention to participate. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm sorry for the weird show today, but where there's a will, there's a way. So let's keep going on, my friends. Much love, gratitude. Talk to you next week.